If you're wondering where Ben Healy's been, I haven't mentioned him at all in this little prelude, or, epilogue, monologue, whatever you want to call it. He is now 11th place in GC at 13 minutes and 19 seconds. He lost 14 minutes on the stage. But still, hats off to Ben Healy, first Irish rider in 38 years to wear the yellow jersey, just the fourth Irish rider to do so. So, Scott, the Pogcineration, the apocalypse.
Yeah. How close was he to the all-time record of the Hautacam? Because I was thinking about that. Because, I mean, he was flying. And, I mean, Narvaez as well. I was really impressed by Narvaez. Okay, we were talking about Tadej Pogacar, but Narvaez, I mean, he was sitting there with top 10 GC riders and riding some of them off his wheel.
Yeah, Narvaez was absolutely exceptional. I was worried the other day about Almeida abandoning and Pogacar looking like a sort of loose chicken in the mountains, but actually, Narvaez was excellent. Sivakov dropped early on, Marc Soler not really to be seen, but Narvaez, brilliant today. Did that lead out for Pogacar, instantly distanced only Roglic and Lipovitz, and boom, just launched that winning move. And yeah, I mean, you were saying the closest all-time record up the climb. This climb has been used how many times? 7 times in the Tour de France's history, I believe. At least 7 times I have the winning timings for. Bjarne holds the record at 34 minutes and 38 seconds. Pogacar came across the line at 35 minutes and 8 seconds of an ascent up the Hautacam, which means he's 30 seconds slower than Bjarne. Take what you want from that. He was 1 minute and 30 seconds approximately quicker than Jonas Vingegaard's time up this mountain 3 years ago when Vingegaard won the stage, which means Jonas was only about 30 seconds slower than he was a couple of years back. Yes, it's still, a downward angle, but that's not that bad. That's not that far off. Also, with fewer teammates to help him, he was on his own for most of the climb. And also, though, just for extra context, he was 2 minutes and 15 seconds faster than Vincenzo Nibali, who won atop of this climb in the yellow jersey. And he was 1 minute and 12 seconds faster than Lance Armstrong back at the 2000 Tour de France on the Hautacam. So, I mean, one of the fastest times of Hautacam we've ever seen, but he doesn't quite beat that record of Bjarne Riis.
Do you think it's over now? Because we saw UAE being so strong, like we both said, Visma kind of falling apart. Jorgensen, we were thinking that he was going to be the guy that they send up the road, or Simon Yates. Didn't quite happen, and it kind of all just crumbled in front of our very eyes for Visma-Lease bike to some extent.
The thing is, I reckon if Jorgensen and Yates were on a good day, the outcome would have been very different, because Visma played it well up until that point. It looked like it was going swimmingly for them. They'd distanced Evenepoel. Pogacar was losing teammates. It looked like they'd kind of, somewhat isolated him. Yes, Wellens was in the break as a satellite rider, but Visma, I mean, it was a good strategy on paper, but Jorgensen didn't have the legs. Bit of a surprise. He was riding well in the first week. Yates didn't have the legs. Giro winner Kuss as well, just not really on tip-top form. These are guys that should really be up there. So I think, it is worrying. It is very, very worrying for the days to come. I really thought this Pyrenean trilogy would give them a chance to gain time back. Maybe not gain time back, but at least limit their losses to Tadej Pogacar. But it's not quite worked that way, and he's lost over 2 minutes today. Jorgensen looks like he's slipping out of top 10. So they're only going to have one rider in top 10 in Paris by the looks of things, unless things change. Yeah, I mean, momentum is now really in UAE's court, and also, at this point in the race, what's interesting is that the fight for third place is incredibly close. So I think we're going to see more teams involved in that third place battle try to take control. The likes of Red Bull Bora and Soudal Quickstep. They don't quite have the same mountain strength as Visma and UAE, but I think they'll have extra incentive now to control the race. There is still a chance. There is still a chance Vingegaard go limits his losses on tomorrow's time trial. I don't quite think he's going to gain a minute back, but he could do a good ride. From what I'm hearing, he might be riding it on a time trial bike. Interesting choice. I heard from a trusted source that Remco Evenepoel will be riding it on a time trial bike. Who knows how that's going to go? I don't necessarily think this Tour de France is like. I don't think the Yellow Jersey is going to change hands. I'll say it that way.
I say, well, he has been lending it to Ben Healy and Mathieu Van Der Poel a few times, so speaking of bikes, wasn't Tadej Pogacar riding an aero bike as well?
This is something I noticed on the climb as well. He was riding the Colnago Y1 RS, which was released at the beginning of the year. He rode this at the UAE Tour on one of the mountain stages he won, but he usually rides the Y5 RS, which was also released this year on mountain stages and in those Helia Classics. We saw him ride the Y5 RS. No, V5 RS. Sorry, these bike model names are very confusing. He rode the V5 RS at Liège-Bastogne-Liège and so forth. But I mean, I was having a debate with with one of my colleagues about this, and I mean, it really depends on the steepness of the climb and the speed that they're going at. I think it was a bit odd, but then also at the same time, Jonas rode it on the new Colnago S5 that was just released, which is their squad's aero bike, which is good to be used for, flat stages and sprint stages. So, I mean, they're just actually not really. What did I say?
It's Colnago.
Oh, man, sorry. Cervelo S5. My bad. I literally wrote about the bike the other day. You can read down at cyclist.co.uk.
I don't understand the difference between the aero bike and climbing bike for these guys, because surely they're all at the UCI weight limit anyway.
Yeah, it's also a matter of comfort as well. I mean, the bikes have different geometries. Usually aero bikes have a geometry that's more aggressive and focused on that kind of forward riding style. Which we'll see on flat stages. Also, a little bit of a thicker frame, which can make the bike a little bit more exposed to crosswinds. But, I mean, the top two riders are both riding their aero-optimized bikes today. Lipovitz uses the same tarmac SLA for both road stages and mountain stages. Doesn't really make a difference. But it was, it was quite interesting observation. Particularly with, the very unique cockpit on the Y1 RS, actually as well with the Colnago S5, is that could also be a comfort thing, but neither of those guys climb in the tops. So, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, except the fact that the cockpit is a little bit more aggressive and racy. Not quite sure if they had a negative stem angle, which sprinters usually operate for flat stages. I would imagine they wouldn't, just because of the fact that it's a mountain stage. But, I mean, it worked. It worked for both of them. And tomorrow, I think we're going to be a little bit shocked with the bike tech there as well, because I'm hearing that there could be TT bikes on what looks to be a very, very steep mountain time trial.
Remco Evenepoel, we might as well touch on him. What did you make of his day and his chances to be on the podium again? I mean, even the white jersey's under some threat now from Lipovitz. And Lipovitz was pretty good in the first time trial.
I'm licking my lips here because I am a Lip Evangelista.
Of course you are. So is Patrick.
I've had it on the record for a while now that I think Lipovitz is going to win white, and I feel so vindicated today. He looked great. He looked really, really good in the climb, a bit like he did at Dauphiné. He's such a diesel engine, up these climbs, so well measured. He's not afraid to attack, but he's just very measured in his efforts, which is smart riding, particularly when you're riding against Pogacar and Vingegaard, who are just going to spring up the road. You could be tempted to follow them, but he wasn't.